media.
No vacancy. I should have just kept driving. The storm hadn't even started yet, just hung there like a warning. Black clouds flickering with dry lightning over the interstate. But I was already running on fumes, and the last sign I'd seen said gas 26 miles, with nothing but scrub and heat haze in every direction. I'd pulled off at a faded exit with no name, just a crooked green marker half buried in desert dust, and found the only building for miles. A low, slumped-over structure barely lit by a single swinging floodlight. Desert Star Motel was painted in faded cursive on the side, half covered in wind-scoured grime. The front office door was unlocked, but the clerk wasn't at the desk. I rang the bell and waited. The air was heavy with the smell of dust, old carpet, and something else. Something faintly metallic. I called out, and after a long pause, a man stepped out from the back room, mid-30s, average height, pale skin like he didn't get outside much, wearing a collared shirt that looked freshly ironed but with dark sweat patches creeping under the arms. His name tag said Frank. He didn't speak at first, just stared at me like he was trying to place my face, like maybe he was expecting someone else. When I asked if there were rooms, he blinked hard, like waking up, and said, yeah, sure, I was in luck. Only one room left. I almost laughed. It was clear no one else was there, but I didn't care. I was exhausted, and a bed was a bed. He handed me a physical key on a metal tag, room 104. No smoking, he said too quickly, and don't move anything around. I paused. What? Don't move the furniture. They're fixed that way. I didn't ask questions, just wanted a shower and to crash for the night. The room was cleanish, plain, dimly lit with one buzzing ceiling light. Everything was beige. The bedspread, the carpet, the walls. But the layout was weird. The bed was pushed into the far left corner, directly under the window with the AC unit above it, which leaked slowly onto the pillow. The TV faced the wrong direction, toward the dresser, not the bed. And the only chair was placed directly in front of the bathroom door like it was guarding it. I tried to shift the chair, but the leg scraped so loudly against the floor that I stopped. I don't know why it bothered me so much. It just felt wrong, like I was being watched for touching it. I left the chair and took a shower. Water pressure was bad but hot. Afterward, I dried off with a thin towel that smelled faintly of bleach and mildew. I climbed into bed without bothering to change clothes. That was when I noticed something odd. There was a light on underneath the adjoining door. I hadn't realized the room even had one. There was no sound, no shadows. But that light, a thin golden line, never flickered. Just steady. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. I told myself someone must be in there. Another guest. But I'd seen no cars in the lot. No one else checking in. Still, I let it go. I was too tired to care. I lay down and turned off the light. 10 minutes later, I heard movement. A soft thud. Then another. Not from next door, but above me. The ceiling. I froze, then reminded myself that the building only looked like one story from the outside. But maybe it had a second level I hadn't seen. Some kind of attic. Then a scraping noise, slow and long, like a heavy object being dragged. Right over my bed. I turned the light on. Silence again. I got up, opened the door, stepped outside. No upstairs. Just sky. Just desert and that twitching floodlight. Back inside, I made myself lie down. It was probably just old pipes, I told myself. But I left the light on. Around 2 a.m., I heard it again, this time from the adjoining door. A soft click, like someone testing the doorknob. Then a low breath. That was the sound that made me sit up. Not a cough, not a shuffle, a breath. Long, steady, drawn through the nose. I backed away from the door, heart pounding. Hello? I called. No answer. But the breath stopped, and I heard the sound of the chair scraping across the floor. The chair I hadn't moved. I stared at the door all night. I didn't sleep. When morning came, the light under the adjoining door was off. I opened my door to leave and found the motel completely different. The front office was shuttered. The floodlight was off. There were no tire tracks in the dirt, no sign of my car, and the room I stayed in, 104, didn't exist anymore. I checked. Rooms jumped from 103 to 105. I knocked on Frank's door. No one answered. I circled the building twice. Nothing. I called the number on the receipt I'd been given. Disconnected. When I walked into the office again, Frank wasn't there, but a different man was. Younger. Polite. Wearing a shirt with the same name tag. Frank. "Hey, just checking out," I said. He gave me a weird look. "You just got here," he said. "You called ahead about room 104, remember?" My stomach dropped. What? He tilted his head, puzzled. "You've been coming here for years," he said. "Room 104's always been your room." He smiled too long. "Your furniture's already in place." He handed me a key, same brass tag, same number. I dropped it and left. I got in my car, which was parked right where I'd left it. I drove until the sun was high in the sky, until I saw other cars and people in cell towers. For days afterward, I had dreams of the adjoining door, of that light, thin as a paper cut, glowing from underneath. Sometimes I wake up thinking I hear the scrape of a chair, but what really gets me, what keeps me from ever staying in another roadside motel again, is that when I finally looked through my wallet, I found the receipt again. Different handwriting, newer paper, same room. But the date was wrong. It was for a check-in 2 years from now, and someone with my name had already signed it. Do not disturb. I checked into the motel because I didn't want to be found. Not because I was in danger, but because I'd done something I regretted, and I didn't want to explain it to anyone. I didn't want pity or advice, or the endless looping questions of why and how could you. I just needed to vanish for a while, reset, breathe in a place where nobody knew me. The motel was exactly the kind of nowhere I needed. A faded blue strip of rooms just off Highway 41, half swallowed by weeds and long-haul truck dust, with a cracked sign that said Red Pines Motor Lodge, even though there were no pines anywhere in sight. I paid cash and didn't give my real name. The woman at the front desk didn't care, didn't even look up, just slid a key across the counter and said, "Room 12, don't open the door for anyone." No exceptions. Her voice wasn't stern, it was exhausted, like she was reciting something she'd said too many times to too many people who didn't listen. I nodded, already too numb to register her tone, and walked past rows of empty rooms to mine. Room 12 was at the very end, next to a chain-link fence sagging with rust. The door was warped, the number hanging at a tilt like it was too tired to stand straight. Inside, the room smelled like stale air and old fabric. There was a bed, a nightstand, a chair with upholstery that looked like it had been clawed at, and a TV that didn't have any ports newer than 1997. But the door locked and the curtains shut tight. I was content. I stayed in that room for 4 days. Ate gas station sandwiches, smoked on the curb, slept. I didn't speak to anyone, didn't use my phone, I just existed. It felt good in a twisted way. I thought I could do it forever. On the 5th morning, someone knocked. I didn't move. I remembered what the woman had said. "Don't open the door for anyone." The knock came again, louder. Then silence. I waited by the door for a while, listening, but I didn't hear footsteps leaving. When I finally peeked through the curtain, no one was there. I wrote it off. Kids, maybe, or the wrong room. That night, I found a note slid under the door. No envelope, just a folded piece of paper with block letters written in blue ink. "I know why you came here." I stared at it for a long time, waiting for the tremble of fear to kick in. But it didn't. Instead, I felt a kind of dull irritation, like someone was trying to insert themselves into my silence to pull me back into the world. I tore it up and flushed it. The next day, another note. "You can't hide from consequences." I took that one to the office. I wanted to speak to the woman again, to ask if someone had reported harassment or if there were cameras. But when I stepped inside, it wasn't her behind the counter. It was a man, thin and overly clean-shaven, wearing a button-down that didn't match his jeans. He didn't look like he belonged in this place. I asked about the woman. He tilted his head. "We don't have a woman working here, just me." I started to correct him, to insist, but something in his expression gave me pause. His eyes were too steady, too practiced, like he was reciting a line. "You said room 12?" he asked. "That room shouldn't have been rented." "What do you mean?" I said, my voice suddenly dry. "That room's not on the active list. It's just storage now." I left without saying anything, walked back to my room, unlocked the door, stepped inside and locked it again. Everything looked the same, but the air felt different, thicker. I tried to leave that night, tried to pack up and go, but I couldn't find my car keys. I emptied every pocket, every drawer, flipped the mattress, tore open my bag. Nothing. I went outside and the car was still there, parked exactly where I left it. But the license plate was different. Not just the number, but the state. I stared at it until my vision swam. I must have been wrong, I thought. I had to be wrong. I went back inside and shut the curtains. Another note waited on the nightstand. "Stop trying to leave. We are not done." I don't know why I kept staying after that. I told myself I had no choice, that something was happening beyond my understanding and I needed to see it through. But the truth is, I didn't want to go back. Back to life, back to people. I felt like the motel was reflecting something in me I hadn't put into words. That feeling of being watched without being seen. The next day, the TV turned itself on. No remote, no signal, just a black screen. But faintly, if I got close enough, I could see my own reflection in it. Except I wasn't alone. Behind me in the TV's dark glass was someone sitting in the chair I knew was empty. A still figure. Blurry. Unmoving. When I turned around, nothing. But when I looked back at the screen, they were closer. I unplugged the TV. It stayed on. First, took the lamp and shattered it against the screen. That finally killed it. The power went out completely. No more lights, no more sound. Just my heartbeat and the wind scratching against the door. I sat in the corner for the rest of the night. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I woke, the room was filled with photographs. Hundreds of them, laid out on the bed, the floor, taped to the walls. Every single one of me. Not just in the motel, throughout my life. My childhood bedroom, my high school hallway, my dorm room. All taken from angles I never noticed. Some through windows, some behind doors, some from above. Some were photos I couldn't remember ever being in. They showed me doing things I never did, standing in streets I've never visited, talking to people I don't know. But the photos were real, and in every single one, tucked somewhere in the background, barely visible, was a figure in gray, watching me. The face always blurred, the posture always identical. Sitting, waiting. I started to burn them in the bathroom sink, one by one. They wouldn't light, not even with direct flame. The paper blackened, but it didn't curl. The image didn't blister. They just absorbed the heat. I screamed until my voice broke. I punched the wall until my knuckles split. I clawed at the door, but it wouldn't open. The lock turned freely, but the door wouldn't budge. Not like it was stuck, like it had never opened in the first place, like it was painted on. I don't know how long I stayed in that room. The days bled together. Sometimes I slept, sometimes I didn't. The notes kept coming, now left on my pillow or under my hands while I slept. They said things I didn't understand. One more day. Not yet. You're not ready. The version of you we need is still forming. Then one day the door opened, just like that. No noise, no dramatic signal, just the creak of a door that hadn't opened in years. I stepped outside and the parking lot was empty. No cars, no front office. Just a gravel lot stretching into pale, endless dusk. I walked for a long time. I think I'm still walking. I find doors sometimes. Open doors with numbers I don't recognize. Rooms that look familiar but feel off. And inside each one there's a version of me. Some younger, some older, some broken, some dangerous. I watch them for a while. Then I close the door and move on. I don't know what Red Pines really was. A place, a test, a fracture in something bigger than us. But I do know this. If you ever stay in a motel off a highway you don't recognize, and they give you a room number you weren't expecting, do not check in. Turn around. Keep driving. Because once you go inside, you don't leave until they're done with you. And sometimes they never are.
The man in room 209. I wasn't supposed to be out that far. My work territory ended 3 counties earlier, but a client had called in a panic about a missed shipment and threatened to cancel a major contract, so I agreed to meet him halfway. I didn't plan to stay the night, but a late meeting turned into a late dinner, and by the time I was back on the road, the fatigue hit like a drug. My eyes were going heavy, my reflexes dull, and I was weaving just enough to scare myself straight off the next exit. There was only one option: Eden Arms Motel, a squat, horseshoe-shaped relic with flickering neon and peeling yellow paint. The sign had a cracked plastic apple and a slogan underneath in faded letters: peace, privacy, protection. I remember that last word more than anything. The office was a glass box with blinds turned permanently down, and a desk fan that did nothing but push around the cigarette heat. The guy behind the counter looked up like I'd interrupted something. Long face, clean-shaven but with skin that looked raw and constantly irritated. No smile. He didn't ask my name. Just said card and ID like he'd repeated it a million times and had stopped pretending to care. He gave me a key to room 209 without looking up. 2nd floor, end unit. Then, almost as an afterthought, don't park under the light. It draws attention. Before I could ask what that meant, he'd already turned back to whatever was on his tiny black and white TV. I walked across the lot, noticing there were only 4 or 5 other cars, all spaced far apart, like people were trying to avoid each other. When I passed room 103, a woman's voice from inside laughed, too loud, too sudden, and then immediately cut off, like a tape had been paused. My room 209 was at the far corner, the key stuck in the knob like it hadn't been used in a while. The room itself smelled like bleach, air freshener, and something beneath that, something warm and stale. The AC unit groaned like it was trying to lift a weight it couldn't handle. There was a tiny kitchenette, a single queen bed, and a TV mounted at an angle that made watching from anywhere but the floor impossible. I noticed something strange almost immediately. Both the landline phone and the clock radio had their cords cut, not unplugged, cut. I remember thinking, maybe they don't want guests calling the front desk in the middle of the night. Maybe they don't want you knowing what time it is. I was too tired to care. I locked the door, bolted it, double-checked the windows, and collapsed onto the bed fully clothed. I didn't fall asleep, not right away, because sometime after I turned the lights off, I heard the soft click of a key turning in the room next to mine. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, pacing, a stop, then pacing again. I waited for the sound of a door closing. It never came. Instead, I heard a soft knock against the wall between us. Just one, not forceful, just enough to confirm I wasn't alone. I stayed frozen on the bed. I didn't knock back. Eventually, the pacing resumed. It went on for hours. When I woke the next morning, yes, I must have slept, though I don't remember drifting off. The pacing was gone, but something else was off. I stood up and realized that the curtain was open half an inch. I never opened it. I'm meticulous about that when I stay in strange places. It was just enough that someone could have peeked in, could have watched. The front desk guy was gone when I went to check out. No one behind the glass. I rang the bell, waited, nothing. So I left the key on the counter and walked out. As I got to my car, I noticed a small object under the windshield wiper. I figured it was a flyer or a business card, but it was a matchbook, one of those old promotional ones. It was damp from the morning dew, but I could make out the stamped print, Eden Arms, Room 209. Guest of the month. Inside, only one match was missing. No explanation, no other markings. I threw it on the seat and started driving. An hour later, curiosity got the better of me. I called the motel's number from a gas station. A recorded message played. "The number you've reached is not in service." I tried again. Same result. That night, back at home, I had a dream about the motel. I was back in room 209. But the walls were thinner, paper thin, and I could see silhouettes through them. Dozens of people, all pacing in place, all knocking lightly on the other side. I tried to leave the room, but the door handle came off in my hand. And then I saw someone crouching under the window, face pressed to the glass, looking in. When I woke up, I was on the floor, not in bed, and my front door was unlocked. It keeps happening. I lock things. I know I lock things. And the next morning, they're open, not wide, just cracked, just enough. Sometimes I think I hear that pacing again. At night, not in the room next to me, but in the ceiling or the floor, like someone got stuck between the walls, like someone never left. A week ago, I got a package in the mail, no return address. Inside, a key, brass, slightly rusted, stamped with the number 209. I threw it away. But the next morning, it was on my nightstand. I called the county to ask if Eden Arms was still operating. The woman on the phone said no, hadn't been open in years. That place closed after the incident, she said. I asked what incident. She got quiet, then said, "The man who checked in, room 209. They never figured out what happened to him. Room was locked from the inside, but he wasn't there. All they found was the mattress flipped, the curtain pulled slightly open, and a burned match on the floor." I hung up. I haven't slept more than 2 hours since, because sometimes, just on the edge of sleep, I hear it again. That single knock on the wall. And I don't live in an apartment. There is no wall there.